Alright, welcome to Story Time with Mrs. Petta on some of my favorite books that we use in our art room. This one is about Mary Blair, the Disney legend who was one of the very first women to work at the Walt Disney Studios. She worked on movies like Peter Pan, Dumbo, Alice in Wonderland, Cinderella, and a lot of the concept art for some of the movies that are really popular today. She also helped create the It's a Small World ride. Under a wide blue sky on a red dirt road, in a lemon yellow house, there lived a little girl named Mary. Other children collected marbles or dolls, but Mary collected colors in every shade and every hue. One day, Mary's parents announced that they were moving out west. And she waved goodbye to the lemon yellow house, and Mary tucked her friend Lemon in her pocket. Mary would miss the happy home, but she had new colors to collect. Driving across the sun-bleached desert, Mary spied russet, taupe, and sienna. When she arrived in California, she glimpsed the azure ocean and found groves of golden fruit dripping from viridian trees. In the city, she discovered steel gray buildings and mauve-tinted skies. Mary opened her sketchbook and she mixed her paints. She would save these shades for just the right time. When she was older, Mary went to art school and she met Lee. He showed her rosy pink and blushing red, and she kept these colors in her heart. Together, Mary and Lee painted rainbows, but it was the Great Depression and people were poor. No one was buying rainbows except for one place. Mary landed a job at Walt Disney Studios, one of the very first women to ever be hired. Finally, a place for her colors to run and dance and play as they pleased. There's Walt. Not a lot of color yet. But on our first day of work, here's Mary. On our first day of work, the men in charge didn't want to talk about cerise. They only were interested in black and white. And Mary was told to follow the rules. She tried, but her colors were too vivid and too wild. And when Mary turned in her work, all of her ideas were rejected. Twinkling emerald skies, the men turned them blue. Magenta horses that could fly, the men turned them brown and put them in stables. Peach giraffes with tangerine spots, her bosses just shook their heads and didn't know what to make of her art. But Walt, the man who owned the company, he did. He loved her colors so much that he asked Mary to join them on a trip to South America to meet some new colors. This is my favorite page in the book. Mary delighted in the colors of Brazil, Argentina, and Peru, and she worked hard to capture the vibrant scenery. When it was time to go home, Mary's bag burst with fuchsia, teal, aquamarine, indigo, lime green, and banana yellow. After Mary returned to Disney, her concept art for the studio's upcoming films grew even more adventurous. She drew upon the eye-popping shades that she'd discovered in South America. Cinderella needed a teal pumpkin. The caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland could only be aquamarine. And the mermaids in Peter Pan simply had to be lime green. This time, some of Mary's ideas were accepted. But most of her art was still considered too modern, too abstract, and just not quite right. So, Mary's colors encouraged her to leave the men and their black lines and strict rules. So she did. Mary quickly found new work designing advertisements, illustrating picture books for children, and creating sets for play and television commercials. She enjoyed the freedom of these new jobs, but Mary missed Walt. And then one day, out of the blue, her phone rang, and it was Walt. "Mary, I have a project for you. I need your wild and beautiful colors," his voice boomed as Walt explained his idea to build a magical ride to teach people about cultures from around the world. The ride had to be full of color, which meant there was only one person for the job. "Mary, you know about colors more than that I don't even know, that I've never even heard of before." So Mary smiled. And then she frowned because she remembered the rules and the lines and the men in charge who didn't understand her colors or her style. There was only one answer. "Yes," said Mary. But her yes came with a condition. This time, Mary wanted to be the one in charge. And Walt welcomed her aboard. Mary's paint seemed to sparkle when she hung up the phone. She had never been to places like China or Morocco or Kathmandu, but her colors had. This is a big page. Sitting down to work, she squeezed out dabs of paint: lemon yellow, aquamarine, and azure, mauve, taupe, and tangerine, russet, sienna, and steel gray, cerise, magenta, teal, indigo, and emerald shine from her palette. And when she picked up her brush, the colors Mary had so carefully collected all of her life took her on a trip around the globe. The work was done, and the ride opened, and people gasped in awe. It's a Small World was a sensation. And when it was done, and it was Mary's turn to take the ride, she leaned back in the boat and let her colors wash over her. It was a world of laughter, a world of smiles, and color, color, color everywhere. This was Mary's world. And I have my Mary Blair slightly inspired shirt with Alice from Alice in Wonderland and the quote from the Cheshire Cat that we're all